Alright, I got a box of stuff, man. And I don't know why I ordered it, but it was $60, and it's like, I think, some motherboards and some SSDs that were faulty. I think a faulty processor. I'm not sure, so I'm going to open it up and we will look at this stuff. I'm going to put it on the floor so that I can get it out. So we got this. This is, I'm not exactly sure what this is. It is an MSI B450 Tomahawk. Okay, so that's one item. And then we got this, which is a Gigabyte X570 Wi-Fi, Elite Wi-Fi. And then there is some Trident Z RAM. This is a 1080 Pro PCI Express 4.0. I don't know the size of this. I'm sure it tells me on the, 128 gig maybe? Maybe 128 gig. And then there is this. Well, probably not help to drop it. Let's see. This is a 1 terabyte. And here is a M2 heatsink. I'm assuming this must be the processor. He said it was a 2700X. And he said it would boot up to, he said it would just overheat or something, or it would crash. But I don't know. I don't know. And then we got this, a 512 gig SSD. And then we have this, which is an MSI Tomahawk. It's not the Aorus X570 Elite Wi-Fi. It is a, I don't know what this is. This is a B550, MSI B550. So, yeah. I could have swore that looks terrible. This deal here. I don't know why I bought this, but it was $60, so I figured it had to be worth something, you know. But I suppose we can just op check it and see if these boot up. I'm assuming this must go here, but this is damaged. So, I mean, can you even fix that, bro? That looks, man, this is a heavy, beefy motherboard, bro. Alright, so the first motherboard is a MSI Tomahawk Arsenal Gaming B450, no post, no backplate. Second motherboard, MSI Mag B550, no post, no backplate. NVMe heatsink mount is bent. The Ryzen 2700X does not work. It will post, but any load on the CPU will crash. If you look at the pictures, the lid of the CPU is crushed, and I think that is the cause of the crashing. I don't see that. It doesn't look like the lid's crushed to me. And again, I mean, it looks normal to me, man. I don't know. All right, what's the next thing? First storage drive, Samsung 990 EVO 1 terabyte, not working. A friend gave me this drive. I can get to Windows to install on it, but it will not boot from this drive. Second storage drive, Samsung 1080 Pro PCI Express 4.0, M.2, 4 terabyte. Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. So this is the 1 terabyte. So this, he's saying it's a 4 terabyte. But I don't think this is a 4 terabyte. Well, I guess before we get too far into what's wrong with hard drives and this, that, and the other thing, I suppose we need to see if one of these boots, I guess. Let's do some resistance checks. Let's find a good ground. Let's check 12 volt here and let's make sure it's not shorted. It's not shorted on the 12 volt, so all right, I think this is 3.3. It's not shorted there. I can't remember what this is. All right, I am not seeing any reason why I shouldn't put a CPU in here. Actually, let's try this 2700 real quick. Let's see here. And let's take a stick of known good RAM. And this is RAM from my test bench. And I'm going to go ahead, most of the time we got to put it in here. I have bought quite a few motherboards like this off of eBay. And each one of them worked. Okay. So let's take our HDMI. Oh, you know what? Does the 2700X, does that have video out? I'm not sure. You know, I don't know if it does or it don't. Okay, here, let's do this. So I'm fairly certain that this does have video out. So I am going to get my little makeshift fan here. Let's plug in. We'll apply power. I guess this doesn't have any LEDs. I think this is probably, I'm not sure. I think this is most likely, you can't see, but probably right here is power. You would think this thing would have LEDs. So the power switch is pinned. Yeah, this is the ones I was touching. Yeah, and they seem to be very similar on all motherboards. And I have power applied, but I get nothing. I get nothing when I attempt to power it on. I mean, it's like it doesn't even recognize. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting 3.3 here, but when I short them, nothing happens. So, yeah, something is definitely not correct. If I'm being honest with you, I don't even know. I'm not even sure how you're supposed to troubleshoot a motherboard. And I doubt it's the BIOS. I mean, I suppose we could. Yeah, it's not the BIOS. Does this battery even have voltage? Yeah, it's a good battery. So we'll go ahead and put that back in there. So I guess I need to maybe try to figure out a little bit more, because there must be something preventing this from, I mean, we know we got 3 volts here, but when I short that 3 volts, it does nothing. It does nothing. All right, I had been doing some thinking and some pondering on this board right here. And so one of the first issues that I noticed is that I get my 3.3 volts here, but when I short that 3.3 volts to ground, which is pin 8 right there, nothing happens, right? So the other thing I noticed was that none of the LEDs come on when I apply power to the board. I should have LEDs on, the standby LEDs at this point, but I do not. So I started trying to trace that. I was like, well, maybe if I can figure out the LEDs, I can figure out what's wrong with it. And so essentially, I mean, that was kind of a waste of time, I guess. I don't know if it was a waste of time, but essentially what you have is you have these ICs right here that take 5 volts in, and then you have your LED ready signal that this chip creates. Let me make sure this is off. Yeah, it is. It creates a 5 volt LED signal that biases the gates. And if you notice, like right here, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me try to zoom in some. Right here is a MOSFET, and this is fed by the 5 volt LED, and then it's controlled by this chip over here, and then once this chip sends the signal, the LEDs turn on. But that, this, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to change focus. So then I started tracing what happens when you short your 3.3 volts to ground. And so essentially what you have is you have that 3.3 volts is felt on pin 61 of the EC chip over here. It's felt on pin 61. You can measure it on this little capacitor right here. And so once you short that to ground, that tells this to produce PS on signal, and the PS on signal is felt on pin 63. Well, it's hard to measure that PS on signal, but that PS on signal can be measured on this little transistor that's right here, another MOSFET right here, right? So the PS on from the EC chip is felt on the, I want to say the source of this MOSFET, right? The gate of this MOSFET is tied to a 47 k ohm resistor right in here. Let me use the microscope so you can see better of what I'm talking about. All right, so that's the little MOSFET right there. And so, like I said, this, let me try to focus. Come on, focus, sucker. This is my source. This is my gate. This gate is tied to this resistor. And then on the other side of this resistor, it's tied to my 5 volt standby. So I have my 5 volt standby, but I don't have anything on this leg right here. And I'm like, well, I should have, in order for this to work, this is an N-channel MOSFET, a 2N7002. In order for this to work, I should have 5 volts here. I should be getting roughly in standby 3.3 volts here. And then when I power the motherboard on, this should pull low, and then that creates the VGS voltage of 5 volts, and which turns this on. And so this low on the source is then felt on the drain, and that's what turns your power supply on, right? But so I was tracing this path for the longest time, and this path, the PS on signal, is also affected by this chip right here. It comes in, I think, pin, one of these pins over here, pin something, 21 maybe. But anyhow, so I guess this works in conjunction with the EC to monitor power to make sure it's safe to cut the system on. And so then I checked all this circuit. I checked the crystal, it's not producing an output, but this crystal it has 3 volts, 3.3 volts on pins 3 and pin 1, but it's not producing a sine wave. But I'm guessing that this crystal is controlled by this chip in some way. I think this chip has to cause this to oscillate by producing the correct amount of voltage, and I don't think it's doing that. So I think this was a dead end. I got to a dead end. So then I went back and I was like, okay, bro, let's check. I should have, if everything's good, I should have 5 volts here, and I do not have 5 volts there. And if I don't have the 5 volts there, then this can never turn on regardless of whether I get PS on or I don't get PS on. I have to have the 5 volts here. So then I started checking on the back of the board, and where it's right in here, this little chip controls, and it took me a long time to figure this out. This little chip controls the gate. So if it detects that there's a fault on the board, it won't produce the 5 volts on the gate of the MOSFET. So then I said, well, let me check this, and then I noticed that it looks to me, now this is the only thing that I've come up with so far. I don't have any shorts anywhere. This right here looks like a resistor is torn off. And on one side of this, I should have 5 volt standby, and on the other, it's a 10K ohm resistor according to the board view. This should feed gate 1 of this chip, and this chip controls the gate of that other transistor that controls PS on. So I think I think a resistor got torn off right here, a 10K ohm resistor. That's what I think happened. And this is supposed to be a 0 ohm. Let me check and make sure it is a 0 ohm. It's not a 0 ohm. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that resistor's damaged or something, because I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a 0 ohm. And that other one looks like it got ripped off. But I do want to check real quick if I get 5 volts on the back of this. So I need to find a ground. I don't know which one of these things is a ground. Let's cut the power supply on. And let's see if I get 5 volts. Sorry for shaking the thing. I get 5 volts here. I get 5 volts there. I get 5. Okay, so that resistor is good. I'm getting 5 volts there. But I don't get anything there because I think I'm supposed to have a 10K ohm resistor. That's what I think. And I think it looks to me like it was ripped off, because this is a pad, like that pad right there looks normal. And you can notice that these big lumps right here are kind of ground off. So I don't have any other clues, so I'm just going to find a 10K ohm resistor, put it on there, and then see if that fixes the issue. That's my plan. So let me find one and I'll be back. All right, so I think that thing is 10K. So we will wait for it to cool down a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to go to yeah, so it goes to that center pin. So I think that's the way it's supposed to be. Not the nicest soldering. I'll touch it up later. I just want to see if we're going to get it a little bit of something. Let's switch it on. I still don't see any lights. Nothing happened. Let's try to power it on. Oh, that worked. I fixed it, dude. Oh, that is cool, bro. Let me plug in an HDMI. Let's see if it'll boot up with this. How crazy is that? One little resistor torn off was causing this thing not to work. Let's we're gonna go ahead. We got the heatsink on there, so we will cut it on, and we'll see if it actually boots up. Well, I don't know if I'm not. Oh, you know what? I don't have RAM, dude. I took the RAM out so I could flip the board over. Hold on a minute. Sorry. Let's do this again. All right. Let's try it now. I've got RAM in there. CPU's getting hot. I feel the heat. Oh, there we go. Okay, it booted, bro. It booted. Okay. All right, that one I'm going to call it fixed. Now, I had to take this off because it was all bent up. I've got to figure out a way to bend it back straight and then put this back together. So I'll do that off camera because that's just gonna, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. But so let's take now, this one's repaired, you guys can see. So now we're gonna move on to the, well, I say it's repaired. I've got to fully test it and all that, but I've got to put it back together. So anyhow, let me get set up, get this moved out of the way, and then we will move on to this other one, which is a B450 Tomahawk, and we'll see what the deal with it is. Pretty cool. I fixed my first motherboard. It took a while. It took a while of figuring, but I finally figured it out. But boy, did I learn a lot about how the motherboard's actually supposed to boot. All right, I have the second motherboard hooked up. I've got the RAM that the individual sent. I have the 3000G CPU. I have this NVMe that has a copy of Windows 10. So we're going to go ahead and see if it'll boot. Let's switch over to oh, I'm using the wrong mouse. All right, so it's stuck on the CPU LED. I don't know if you can see, I'll show you with this. So you can see the CPU LED is stuck on. So I'm going to power it off. I'm going to put in my other stick of RAM, my known good. right, so we'll cut power on. We'll boot it again. Let's watch this red LED. Okay. Everything so far looks normal. And yeah, it looks like it's going to boot. All right, so yeah. But so let's see if it'll boot from that NVMe into Windows. And it looks like it's going to go ahead and boot into Windows. So I would say that this board works. I mean, I'll have to give it a more full testing later before I sell it, but it looks so far like this board just works. I think the issue is this stick of RAM. It either doesn't like this stick of RAM or this stick of RAM is somewhat faulty. I'm not sure. So I will put this in another test bench and see how that works out. So the second thing I can say I think is working just fine. So go ahead and shut this down. All right, so this is the test bench that I have been working on. Or I've been using to test graphics cards. And it has a i7-6700 in it. What happened to my screw? Oh, you know what? I don't have a... I need to find... Maybe this will work. Oh, that worked like a charm. So we've got, this is the 1 terabyte Samsung 99 Evo that he said he could install Windows on it, but then it wouldn't boot from the drive. That was what the seller said. So we'll go ahead and get this all plugged up. And then we will see if that is indeed the case. Let me take my known good stick of RAM, the old rip jaws. All right, that's in there. So we will go ahead and I have Windows 10 on this thumb drive. So first, let's just see if it recognizes the drive and all that kind of stuff. So let's power it on, and let's try to get into the BIOS. It cut off. Oh, there it's cutting back on. I haven't cut this motherboard on in a long time. All right, let's see if it recognizes the drive. Uh-oh, I can't, oh, you know what? I neglected to hook up my mouse, man. How do you do boot? So it says boot option 1 is Samsung SSD 99 Evo 1 terabyte. So what happens if we just try to boot from it? Let's try that. Reboot and select proper boot device. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to install Windows 10 on this drive. So we're going to go ahead and reboot the computer. Go into the BIOS and tell it to boot from the USB drive that I just inserted. Yeah, so I don't know. It won't install Windows. I also tried it on, or it'll install Windows, but it will not boot from that drive. So I honestly don't know what that's all about. I mean, I don't think there's anything that I can fix on that drive. I think it's just something with the firmware is broken. So I guess that'll be it for that. I mean, I don't know. And the last thing I have is a 512 gig SSD. So yeah, I'm not sure. I am not sure what the deal is, man. So I'm not gonna really worry about that. That's like a $30 hard drive, so it's not a. I will try to maybe put it in another PC and see if I can use it as storage. Maybe that's what I'll do. But all right, so yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna close this video out. We had one motherboard that I think it didn't like the RAM that he was using, and we had another motherboard that was defective. It had one resistor torn off, and so we found the resistor and put the resistor back, and now the board boots. I will test it later fully and see if it's able to be sold or whatever. But so one thing I did forget to address was this. This is a fake SSD, and the guy said he thought it was a scam because it doesn't detect anything. And so I did some research, and this isn't real. He said he bought it off of eBay, but it's not a real 4 terabyte anything. I don't think it's I don't know what it is, but I'm not plugging it into my computer. I'll tell you that. I don't know what this is. But anyways, so yeah. So that's the end of the video. In any event, y'all be good.